So you want to see what it looks like inside of a mud flood building? That's good. That's real good. But first, I want to point out that all mud flood buildings have steps that lead up to the front door or steps that lead down. And the reason why is because they've had to make alterations to the building. And they'll always have a date on it, sometime in the 1800s. But if you noticed, on the left or right hand side of the door, you have windows, and below, you have bricked out windows. And this is what it looks like on the other side. Oh my days. Damp, dirty, rusty, and old. And this is another part of that same building. And I want you to notice the bricked out windows at the bottom, how they get smaller and smaller until you can't see them no more. And this is what you're dealing with on the other side. These are not basements. It's not the sewage. This was the original lower level. And they clear it out, remove all the mud and all the mess, and salvage what they can.
Having no desire to ever join the latest social media platform craze, curiosity finally got the best of me and I signed up for an account on TikTok. The reason? To find out whatever type of information is being spread on this platform regarding the subject of mudflood and Tartaria. Now, I know what you're thinking. You claimed you didn't want to be an anti-Tartaria channel, Woody. When it comes to research, what will be presented here is aimed to exercise critical thinking. And I believe this conversation is important, which is why I'm going to have it. I knew the subject of Tartaria existed on TikTok, where the average user age is under 25 years old. But I did not know to what extent and therefore wanted to see for myself. Videos not just with thousands or hundreds of thousands, but millions of views. One of the biggest channels is One Foul Wow 2, also known as the Bully Slayer, who has 220,000 followers.
San Francisco, 1915, World Fair. Oh my days. This is the Palace of Fine Arts. Not much has changed. At the top is what it used to look like, and at the bottom that's what it looks like now. Doesn't look temporary to me. You see, I don't really believe they built that World Fair. I believe that's from the old world, the previous civilization. That's Tartarian architecture. We don't build like that.
Now, some of you are probably thinking, this is great. The word on Tartaria is getting out to the youth and the truth can't be stopped. Fuck you, Woody. But before venturing further into this presentation, let's take a moment to recap the story behind TikTok, which for consecutive years has been the most downloaded app in the world. TikTok's parent company is ByteDance, with its headquarters in Beijing.
Now, ByteDance wasn't just any old tech startup. It was a startup directed by a man named Zhang Yiming, and it was also a startup that was littered with Chinese officials. ByteDance was putting their money into creating the most powerful advanced AI technology imaginable. An AI system more advanced than anything seen before it. This was no accident. In this time, the Chinese government had a strong desire to make AI a priority in the race for global tech dominance. But why was China so obsessed with AI? Why was the Chinese government so involved with working with this unknown tech company? To answer this, let's take a quick look at what ByteDance's AI technology was capable of. On this news site, there wouldn't be a curated feed or editors controlling the flow of information. Headlines instead use specially made AI algorithms to select and push the news robotically, with the company never having to hire a single reporter or editor. To test this highly developed AI system, ByteDance released the app to the Chinese market. And almost immediately, the algorithm worked its magic. In a matter of months, headlines became extremely popular in China, with the site gaining 10 million users in just 3 months, making ByteDance the first ever AI-generated propaganda machine. It was the embryonic site for much darker things to come. By using algorithms, the Chinese government could connect all these data points from everything you do, using your travel records, friends, acquaintances, reading habits, and purchases, all to anticipate any political resistance. It's through these sorts of social credit scores and advanced AI technology that the Chinese government has gained a firm grip over 1.3 billion people. But what if China could use such technology outside of its own borders?
We have made significant advances on theoretical and cultural fronts.
Xi Jinping announced that, quote, "We should increase China's soft power, give a good Chinese narrative, and better communicate China's messages to the world." So ByteDance's new venture would be with an app called Douyin, or in other words, the Chinese version of TikTok. ByteDance tested out Douyin to make sure the technology would be effective enough, and in less than a year, Douyin took over China, gaining enormous popularity, with 1 in 10 Chinese people having downloaded the app in less than a year. The next step for ByteDance was a sophisticated marketing campaign, spending $3 million a day in marketing alone just in the American market. ByteDance would then get celebrities to join in. It would saturate the media and advertising world. You'd even see the NBA signing a multi-year partnership with TikTok. And with the TikTok logo being stamped on every exported video, you'd then see this marketing begin to snowball. Anyone could post some content and go viral the next day. Because of that, Gen Z rushed to it, allured by the prospects of fame, attention, and quick dopamine hits, using its AI technology to learn how to create the most addictive user interface possible. TikTok's own users would automatically use all their creativity and talent to garner some hint of virality. Then the most addicting videos made are rewarded favorably for doing so. Once people catch on to which engagement tactics work, these videos are then copied over and over again. The most catchy songs are replicated over and over, creating the cycle of people who are addicted to chasing virality. And so in the case of TikTok, a video has to capture users' attention very quickly to cause them to watch the whole thing. If the video doesn't catch your attention within a couple of seconds, it's swiping onto the next one.
The fact that you're watching this video means you are energetically aligned with me and Aquafarians, but you may know them as mermaids.
And there are real consequences to this. TikTok's design is neurologically damaging. Researchers are only just beginning to understand this. Since Generation Z's infatuation with TikTok, our attention spans have dropped to the lowest levels in recorded history, with our attention spans becoming reduced to that of a goldfish. If China wanted TikTok to take over the globe, TikTok would need to tap into the human mind. Not only through social engineering tactics, but also through their users' data. Because this is where the real money behind TikTok lies. This is why TikTok is now considered a cyber threat. And once again, it all comes back to the TikTok algorithm. Unlike Facebook, Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube, TikTok's algorithm goes one step further.
Okay, has anyone else noticed that your For You page has been a little too accurate lately? It hasn't been things that I'll Google or I talk about. It's been thoughts.
TikTok knows everything about us.
Well, this all starts to become clear as soon as you begin reading TikTok's privacy page. A privacy page that literally admits to collecting as much data from you as possible. And no, this isn't like Google or Facebook stealing your data and selling off to advertisers. This information is being used to tap into your biological hardwiring and, most importantly, to fund China's openly stated goal of world domination. Since China adopted the National Intelligence Law in 2017, all Chinese citizens and companies have been under a legal obligation to help the government gather intelligence. And so with TikTok collecting so much user data, the fact that TikTok is half run by the Chinese government, and now with the passing of this new law, TikTok is beyond problematic. This is where true power in the modern day lies, because the people who control the algorithms are the people rewiring your brain. They are controlling the spread of information, they program the culture, and with TikTok now being the most downloaded app for several consecutive years, the results are becoming apparent.
I'm vaccinated, caffeinated, and freshly masturbated.
On the Chinese version of TikTok, all videos seen as degenerate by the Chinese government are actively removed, and yet at the same time, the algorithm promotes videos of hardworking, everyday people sharing their life and work accomplishments. As you could expect, these videos are generally wholesome, upbeat, and positive, with there being a literal section on the Chinese TikTok called Positive Energy to promote the Communist Party. But in the West, TikTok promotes the exact opposite. On our version of TikTok, we're bombarded with endless insipid videos of girls shaking their ass to music. The power TikTok yields over the younger generations is becoming more and more apparent. People are starting to see that through TikTok's AI technology and sophisticated algorithms, TikTok is able to create trends that radically influence the lives of so many in Generation Z. And what's scary is that so many of TikTok's core audience are barely even adults. TikTok users are being influenced into emulating these trends that are highly toxic and polluting to society. But of course, these trends are manifesting things far worse than degenerate behavior. The spread of political disinformation and infiltration of Chinese propaganda is now a serious concern to all of us. This first became apparent on the Western version of TikTok when pro-Hong Kong posts, anti-CCP posts, pro-Tibet content, and anything spreading awareness of the persecution of Uyghur Muslims was all removed. And this concern takes a further serious turn in light of recent reports that Zenu Data, which has reported links to the Chinese military and intelligence networks, has collected personal details of about 2.4 million people outside of China, with pretty much all of this data being sourced from TikTok. The former editor of the Hong Kong Economic Journal wrote in a column that TikTok is reaching deep into offices and homes, shaping how Americans understand real-world events. He went on to explain that while China's move to establish physical footholds around the world was easy enough to recognize, China's quote soft power ambitions have been much less noticed until recently, where China is using highly developed AI technology and powerful algorithms to erode free speech and Western culture.
China's stated goal is to become the world leader in artificial intelligence by 2030.
And now the next frontier is to gain a strong foothold in the global culture. Because if you can control the culture, you control the population. And as Xi Jinping declared, it is time to, quote, dare to draw the shining sword. So while the West becomes addicted to TikTok, where the West has their attention spans reduced to that of a goldfish, where people can't go 5 minutes without checking their phone absorbed by TikTok degeneracy, where we are having our brains literally rewired, China is now training their youth to prepare for war, which entails the banning of effeminate sissy men on TV, banning excessive video game usage, teaching children Xi Jinping's school of thought, teaching children how to use military equipment, and having schools have distinct masculine and feminine school curriculums. And today, it is now mandatory for Chinese students to read The Art of War. And as you'd expect, this has come with rampant military propaganda. So while the West is swamped by visual diarrhea of grotesque TikTok videos promoting crime, degeneracy, OnlyFans and the CCP, the Chinese are trained to become stoic with a warlike spirit inoculated to degeneracy. This stark contrast between the Chinese version of TikTok and ours serves to highlight how effective TikTok's AI technology is in manipulating the masses. According to US military analysts, attacking the enemy's psyche is a key part of China's military strategy. The Chinese stratagems established by Sun Tzu in The Art of War was the foundation for this form of warfare, so it shouldn't be any surprise why The Art of War is mandatory reading. But then this all begs the question, why is China going to all of this effort? All the government employees, all the high-tech algorithms, all the social engineering, all the spying. Why is China so desperate to influence Western culture? Well, like all psychological weapons, there's only one reason for their usage: to destroy the enemy. TikTok suddenly took over the psyche of millennials and Generation Z. And that's the genius behind all of this. China is engaging in a war and we didn't even realize we were a part of it. China is taking over the world economically. China is taking over the world militarily, secretly building up its army reserve. China is taking over the universities and schools across the West. And now China is taking over the culture. It took until 2020 when the bubble burst did we catch on to what was going on. We had been played. A sudden novel virus emerging from China, a sudden militarization of China's military, a sudden realization of the national security threat TikTok posed. We were finally confronted with the truth. China is currently telling its military to prepare for war. China is taking foreign hostages within its own country. China is rapidly building up its military. China is developing AI technology never seen before in the West. With our society more divided than ever, with our politicians weaker than ever, with our youth more controlled than ever, when you connect all these dots, you start to realize where the real wealth behind TikTok lies. It lies in our addiction. It lies in our shortened attention spans. It lies in our own demise. TikTok allows China to gain vast sums of money from playing on our own psychology, promising you that dopamine hit, that dream, that attention, dangling it in front of you like a carrot on a stick, disguised as an innocent little app.
The key takeaways from this presentation are: TikTok is controlled by communist China. TikTok's AI algorithm censors any of the info the CCP doesn't want getting out. TikTok is a tool for cultural manipulation of the Western world's youth. The best evidence for this is the fact China's version of TikTok doesn't allow any degenerate behavior. Now, here's where things start to take a strange turn. This is Zhejiang University, said to be one of the oldest, most selective, and prestigious universities in China. The university made international news in February of 2021, when Professor Huan Hexin broadcasted one of his lectures live to the internet, where he claimed Western scholars fabricated ancient history to diminish the glory of China. Western scholars elevated the status of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Indian civilizations at China's expense, Huan argues. The intention of this vast conspiracy in fictionalizing these three civilizations was to weaken the glory of Chinese civilization. Chinese civilization is more ancient, Huan says. The Chinese Ministry of Education ranked Zhejiang University among the top 3 in China, and its motto is seeking truth, pursuing innovation. Professor Huan claims that he can prove his theory with pictures. Huan emphasizes, this is a historical conspiracy, so I have to make a stand for a rectification for Chinese culture. The West is always making up history and falsifying ancient relics. The main purpose is to belittle Chinese civilization. The lecture is just a small part of his efforts to reverse history. In the past few years, he has been committed to correcting the mistakes of the West, with his aim to rewrite the history of the world to put China at the center.
Well, I was just going to say, imagine the difference in the historical data. Like, we now are saying that gold didn't build Melbourne, that didn't happen. Melbourne was already built. That Chinese people were somehow already here because they were really well versed in the landscape and all the industries, and they were already processing and made available. We'd look at, if we took away the notion of European architecture and then meld it with the Chinese architecture, which is where all this dragon symbology comes in, and Chinatown was already there, people. It was already there.
Huan wrote the preface of the book The Fictitious History of Western Civilization, Research on the Ancient and Modern West Copying China, published in 2017. The book asserts that primitive Europe was brought into the civilization of the world by China, from which it obtained writing, navigation, technology, economy, bureaucracy, democracy, philosophy, and history. This is not the only book on this subject. In The Source of Civilization in the World of Great Harmony, written in 2012, author Du Gengzhen, and I'm probably butchering all these names, explains how human civilization originated in the southwestern region of China, and ancient Chinese people moved westward, creating ancient Greek and Roman civilizations. What these books have in common is that world history as we know it is merely a Western fabrication. There were no ancient civilizations outside of China. So, what is this all starting to sound like?
So Tartaria was thought to be a global and technologically advanced civilization that existed way before the 1800s up until the 1900s, where it was wiped out by a Great Reset.
This brings us back to TikTok, a Chinese communist-run app that is not censoring Tartaria research, even though ByteDance has pledged to stop the spread of misinformation on their platform. Not even Instagram is flagging Tartaria content with its false information fact-checker warning, like they do for everything COVID-related.
Everybody talking about debunking. You can't debunk me. I'm doing the debunking. How can you debunk the debunk?
Let's just jump right back into those claims you made on the Panama Pacific International Exposition, shall we?
But not everything was destroyed. This is the Palace of Fine Arts. Not much has changed. At the top is what it used to look like, and at the bottom that's what it looks like now. Doesn't look temporary to me.
Don't say another word, because you've proven yourself useless, wouldn't you say?
While anyone who's been following my content does not need another reminder that the official narrative surrounding the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco was built to be permanent in 1966, our Gen Z friend with the attention span of a goldfish is in need of a little schooling on how to do an online search. Even if you're under the influence, this 1966 construction is disinfo meant to cover up the truth. Ignoring this easy-to-research topic makes everyone questioning history look bad. A book published in the 1960s, along with multiple sites which are dated well before this online assumption was invented that the Palace of Fine Arts that stands today was the original structure, have always been readily available for you to look into.
Never assume. When you assume, you make an asshole out of yourself.
Now this don't make no sense. We can't even create these type of statues today.
Here one foul wow makes another error, as the artist Yago can and does this type of work with marble statues. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bully Slayer himself is using images referencing modern-day sculptures, since it appears he's finding whatever images exist on the internet and then cropping them. Here's an example of how easy it would be to pull off claiming Yago's work is ancient secret technology that we can't replicate today.
There's no way anyone could do anything like that. Not today. That's the work of the old world. You can't play Call of Duty and be able to jack off to online porn and be able to master a craft like this today. Only the old world can do this. Believe me, I tried to not masturbate. It's impossible. If the sound of my voice isn't getting you wet, then surely the detail on these titties are doing something for you. There's no way. You can't tell me we can do something like that today. Look at the detail on his back and his ass. Yeah, but that statue he's holding, she's loving that. Don't look at this one. I mean, look at the details, it's incredible, but oh, it's like I just walked in on my grandma coming out of the shower. Oh, she's trying to cover her titties up from me. Ooh, ooh. Oh, I'm getting sick. Oh, I need to close off this. Oh, my clicker's not working. Oh, the CIA and FBI must be onto me. They've taken over my computer, just like how they took over Paul Walker and Anne Heche's car. And now they're gonna crash me into a mud-floor building. Oh, there we go. It's clicking the wrong button.
The simple reality of this situation is this type of artwork is not in high demand by our degrading society, where all art is becoming shit. Pardon my Spanish, but the Museum of Modern Art in New York City showcased a fucking staring contest with this nasty bitch.
Our culture is to do what we're told. Our culture is not to ask questions or think for ourselves. Because all I'm doing is asking the question of how did they make the veil.
And here's where the real issue lays with this type of research. You're asking questions but making zero effort to seek an answer. Presenting the idea you don't understand a topic and leaving it open-ended as a mystery is not research, nor is it critical thinking. Critical thinking would be asking yourself why a Chinese Communist Party-controlled app isn't flagging any of your easy-to-debunk claims, which, let's be honest, none of these are your original ideas. You've stolen all of them off YouTube and attempt to go viral on a platform that requires little to no effort to produce art, and it's working well for you.
Whatever, motherfucker!
Circling back to the notion that the expositions don't have mudflood windows, well, I did find a few while pulling this video together. So I will feature them here, as to not be one-sided like CNN or Tartaria Research. Either the mudflood was a selective event, or some of the architects at these expositions went the extra mile to pull realism out of these temporary structures by giving them the illusion they have basements. Of course, fanatics will do whatever mental gymnastics are needed for the belief that these World's Fairs were advanced civilizations run by China. It's also important to note the idea of the expositions belonging to Tartaria doesn't appear to have any record existing before 2019. 2 years after Communist China would publish the book The Fictitious History of Western Civilization. I really hope they print an English version of this book because now I'm curious what else it's saying. While America is flawed and full of deceit, it's certainly a better setup here than what Communist China has done to its citizens. I'll end with a handful of excerpts from the 45 Communist Goals, which was written 59 years ago, and you can tell me where you think we're at on the list today. Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. Get control of the schools and teachers' associations. Soften the curriculum. Infiltrate the press. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and pictures. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and press. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in the media. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the grounds that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate and old-fashioned. Discredit the American Founding Fathers as selfish aristocrats and racists. Infiltrate and gain control of big businesses and unions. Transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to social agencies. Treat all behavioral problems as mental health or social problems. Discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of the parents. Belittle American culture and discourage the teaching of American history.
Whatever, motherfucker!